Hello, hello, cyber world. This is Dynamic Di with Fierce Single Moms here. I am here with a phenomenal friend and woman of mine, Des Partlow.
Hello.
She actually works in the mental health field as well. As you all know, I'm here for as mental health and financial literacy coach, but she actually works in the field of mental health where she helps very low income to even homeless people and what they're going through to make sure that they understand that it is not hopeless. So what's great about that is this is equating to a lot of what we talk about because some of those people, and the majority of them statistically, are single moms. And unfortunately, they've also lost some of their children because the government has stepped in, not saying that they can't have them back, but they have to go through hoops and bounds. So trust me when I say this reaches out to all of us single moms, especially for this wonderful Mother's Day weekend. So let's get in our discussion, our topic today of the effects of our stress levels that we're going to go through and how that affects our mental health. So Des, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, such a pleasure. If you'll go ahead and reintroduce yourself if there's anything else I missed.
Well, my name is Des Partlow, and I do work in mental health as a job coach / case worker, and I probably do a little bit more um, outside of my job description, but I'm fine with that. I'm 29. I believe in mental health now that I work in the fields, and when I was younger, we didn't really focus on it in my home. So it helps to know all of the different side effects and all of the different disabilities and mental health issues that are out there. So
Yes. And that is the biggest thing that most people don't realize. It's what we don't know. When you don't know what you don't know, how do you expect to get out of it? And the struggles that we have, I mean, as people in general,
right.
but in our world of single moms is we feel more, instead of just being a single mom, that we're solo moms. And that is a very unhealthy mindset. And unfortunately, it's because everything we do have to do is solo, you know, and it's not that we don't want the help, but like you were just saying, in your household, you're not really taught about mental health. You're not really taught, you know, to do anything with aid. You're always kind of pushed to stand on your own 2 feet. And one thing we all know as single moms is no matter what area you've come from any single mom, being it, you know, you like myself, where you've originated as a single mom, or if it came upon you because of divorce or being a widow, or you chose it, you know, you might be in adoption and foster care, and that takes a whole nother type of heart. But when you do go through those things and you're told at home, or you're told that this is what you just got to do, you got to suck it up, then we wonder why we're living our lives just to survive. And here at Fierce Single Moms, it's all about understanding your fierceness, your greatness, and your purpose that is beyond yourself, but to understand that it has to start with self-care. So let's start there. I know that a big part of that, obviously, that you've actually incorporated, because you mentioned that you learned a lot, and a lot of that was personal.
Yeah.
It became self-care. So one of the things we had talked about before is the stipulation about that. And people think that it's costly.
No, self-care can be free. You can go for a walk, you can read a book, you can go to your favorite park, library, you can just meet and talk with friends and watch something on TV. So
that's why we're hanging out right now. Right.
So yeah.
So for you then, when you got into understanding the importance of self-care and how that equates to your mental health, what do you do to be able to afford it?
Well, back in 2015, when I was working in the daycare system, I did not focus on self-care and mental health. So I found myself being depressed or overeating or just having bad days back to back. And I was like, no, this is not gonna work. So I ended up putting in my 2-week notice, and then I spent the 2 weeks just doing something I enjoy, which is traveling. And I just told myself from this day forth, even if I only save $50 out of each check, that I will begin traveling, and I will begin doing it on very, very different occasions. Like I'll do it throughout the year versus just waiting and having one big trip. So
Right.
yeah.
And that's actually something that a lot of us as moms, that we're stipulated to be told, like, we can't have this until you do these steps.
Right.
You can't do certain things until you get this far. And that's such the lie. You know, the whole point of my program, and it's 10 weeks, it's Fierce Coaching course, is to teach them that the resources are out there, but do you know how to be resourceful?
That's right.
In your case, you had to get out of the societal bubble that traveling means it's only during the travel season. It's only during those times when, you know, the airlines or car rentals or whatever it is, whichever way you travel is the cheapest during these points. So that's when you can do it. But then you're even brought back even further, because it's like, well, if you can't afford that, even, you still got to wait because you got to add up this or you got to do that. Now, granted, you were smart enough to say, I will save this. But what I hear, and this is a free, quick little lesson here, is I will. That is part of the things that I am going to be teaching them, and that I feel that is across the board. It's I can, I will, and I must.
Period.
You heard there was nothing else. Period. So it's great to hear that, because as someone who's a young woman, I say that because, you know, I got like almost 10 years on her. So like, as a young woman who's out there to do what she's doing, you know, a lot of people think, oh, well, that's easy for her to say. And that's another lie. Right. But well, that's a whole nother subject. But on the stress level of it, like she was saying, she had a good job. And ironically, she worked with kids, you know, and I knew her since then, and she's very good with them. And it's a passion that she's always had to like work with youth and to be there for people. But yet she was very unhappy. And to kind of touch on that, since you did know me beforehand, even before creating this, you know, where would you say my stress level was like when we met?
At a 10 out of 10. It was pretty high. So
I didn't expect her to say that, but it was that bad.
Well, when you met me, mine was at 10 also. Yeah. So we were in the same boat. So,
and you know what's so funny is I didn't see that though. I mean, I saw the stress of, I would have said it was like a 7 or an 8. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But because I didn't see that on your face until we started talking more, and until we started having the small groups that we were having. And it was such a great life lesson, by the way, guys. That was my first time actually reaching out to any other female and being okay with that. That's another thing, you know, a part of mental health and the stress levels that we have is that unfortunately we seek our girlfriends out or whoever we associate with, but you got to be careful of your circle.
That's right.
You know, and if they're going to complain with you and gossip with you, and, you know, I'm not talking about just a shoulder to lean on, but let's be real. I'm a real person, you know, she's real, so I don't curb, but I'm not going to sit there and allow more negativity in. And that's all I did. You know, I would, even in the positive moments, you know, it would be like, oh, well, how are you, girl? I was going through blah, 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 blah. And it ends up becoming the rundown of all this negative in your life. And that's not good. That's a very unhealthy thing to do. So you have to have avenues in mental health to be able to unload your day without being bitter about it. And that's what I am capable of teaching you, is the how to do that in a world that says, you know, bottle it in, you know, deal with it. You gotta, you know, do the 9 to 5, the rat race. And that's not it. That is not what God intended. That is not what you were purposed for. So this conversation is near and dear to my heart. Outside of just you vacationing and your self-care is to travel, because this girl is going.
I love travel.
Like, that you be gone. Like, I'd be like, so we want to do this and this. Like, we even getting together for this, it was like phenomenal because we were never on the same schedule. And I used to work, you know, between 60, 70 hours. Remember, like regularly. Yeah. You know, my average hours was 62 hours on average. So when I had a low week, I was like, girl, I finally had 55 hours. She was like, you worked what? And I was like, 55 hours. And she was like, that's a lot. I'm like, oh no, that was my shirt week. Right? That was yeah. So she would just, and she does this thing with her eyes, she just like, okay, you say. But, you know, beyond that, I guess what I want to say, since we were touching on it, is the understanding. Remember, I had mentioned to you of my studies of the 4 C's of psychology, and it's specifically in stress psychology. And a professor I found, Peter Clough, I hope I'm saying his name right. I'm sorry. It's Cloughh. So if anybody, you know, but I think it's Clough. He made a piece on understanding emotional resilience. Now that is actually a terminology that came out in the 1960s. That became because, you know, if you recall the 60s, you got to remember the Great Depression only just was like 20 years ago beyond this. So this is a generation now that has to deal with the hardship of rebuilding, you know, and to understanding how to live after destitution and losses and business, you know, drops and things. And of course, we've had moments of that. Like, I mean, look what happened with 2020, and we're still feeling that. Small businesses, including mine, hey, support us. So, you know, but that being said, it was nowhere near as bad as that, you know. But the scary part is we can get very close to that if we don't watch what we're doing. Then we had a real estate crash in 2007, 2008. And I bring these things up because facts and statistics do matter. So with my class and with my course that I teach these things, not to delve into all these specific details of certain things, but they're relevant to your understanding your personal life. Because if all those people were able to do this, and these CEOs and you businessmen that are out there, you know, cutting the grind and building these businesses up, the backbone of your company, if it's not necessarily family owned, is us. You know, it's the moms out there and the families out there that are trying to reconnect somehow in the world to just survive, but you make your dollar on it. And unfortunately, on the back burner of that is what we go home with. So I bring that up again, like to say, to go back to it, is the 4 C's of stress psychology. And being that this is a faith-based, you know, coaching session, we actually add the 5th C, which is actually something I got from a professor and PhD psychologist in Cambodia, which is awesome. But adding the 5th C is having Christ in your life. Now, whether you do or don't agree is not necessarily my point. It's the fact that if you don't seek out something higher than yourself, and please trust me, when I say seek out something, I mean that in a positive and spiritually gaining and purposeful sense. Hence the reason why that would be God, because he kind of encompasses all of that. Sorry. But when I say that, though, it's because Christ represents the compassion that we're needing. That's right. And also what we need to gain. You know, the other 4 C's, off the top of my head, because I usually have this notated, but it's commitment is one, and confidence is another, that those main 2 that I wanted to touch on. Because if you don't have the confidence to do what you did and what you're in mental health, what do you deal with those people that have these stress levels? Like you said, you met me, I was a 10 out of 10. You were a 10 out of 10. And yet look where we've gotten. But it took a lot of stressful work. It did. To get there. And unfortunately, other people, you know, I do believe in Denzel Washington, shout out, of each one teach one. Girl, I'm sorry. So when you were dealing with the people that you're dealing with for your mental health, how do you incorporate, like, at least those are in particular, of confidence and commitment? Because I touch on those because we say confidence and we don't realize that confidence is actually courage. And that is different than bravery. You can be brave all you want to and show up at the battle, but then if you see what's against you, you're too scared to do anything. There's lack of confidence. That's lack of confidence. And then it's also lack of courage. Because, you know, if you're courageous, if nobody else is battling but you know this is the right thing to do, you know this is for your purpose, and you know this is the gain for other people, you battle regardless. So you lost your lack of confidence when you cower. And then do you have the courage to do it anyway if nobody else is behind you? So how do you incorporate that to the people that you're dealing with that are homeless and very low income, and they see you and they're like, oh, but you can self-care because you can afford it, not knowing maybe that's not what you had at first. Right. Thankfully, the organization that I work with, they do offer free counseling and therapy to the clients. So they do get to have like an outsource of people to talk to. Also, a lot of times we do simply a vision board. You can get a piece of paper and write out a vision and go step by step. And I always tell my clients, even if you make a baby step, it's still a step. So steps equal, you know, you're trying. And if you're trying, then you're on the right path. So I just try to encourage them and not let negativity take over their life. So I agree with that. And then to kind of be cliche to it, when she says trying, I think of, you know, everything that you're trying to do should become a triumph. But a triumph doesn't mean that you just won something. Right. It means that you overcame. Being an overcomer means that you went through something. You went through
Mhm.
some kind of hell, you some kind of struggle, and you overcame.
Mhm.
And then you became triumphant because that overcoming built up the confidence that you guys are giving, and I love the fact that there's counseling for them for free. Not everybody has that,
That's right.
especially when you're low income and anything, you would think that would be something offered and it's not. So I think that's great that you're involved in that.
Mhm.
So, but for you, just to give her a shout out, mental health also entails an action. And one of the things that you mentioned that you do is you'll even visit your clients' homes.
I do, if they have a home, because I do have homeless ones, but I do go into the homes. So,
And what do you do when they're with the ones that are homeless?
usually we'll meet at the building, or we'll meet like at the library. Pre-COVID, I haven't been back to the library since, but or we'll meet at like a restaurant somewhere where they can get out of the elements of the sun or rain or the cold, depending on the season. So we make it work.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Mhm.
And then when it comes to that, then what do you deal with for yourself on your stress levels? Like outside of physically, traveling, you can't necessarily do that every day. God willing, we'll be able to do that though. Speak life, right? So,
That's
we can
right.
get our private jet. We can do that every day. That'd be great. But until then, when you're dealing with that stress of what you do now, even though I'm sure it's a lot less than what you had been before, that's still taking on a lot of what
It
you're
is.
seeing.
Mhm.
So what are your mental health practices that you feel work?
I do try to get with a friend at least once a week just for dinner, so I can have somebody to talk to, and just let out the stresses of the week. Also, small group church on Sunday. A lot of times I also do like activities around where I live that will, give me an outlet. So I try to do something, some type of self-care every day. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, for the Fierce Single Moms, because again, this is not just about what to do and getting handed, the resources. A lot of people don't know what to do with that.
Right.
And I'm sure in your field, especially with those that are homeless, just because you're telling them something doesn't mean that they're going to do it, or they don't know how to use it.
Right.
I can give a hammer to somebody all day and tell them it's a hammer and you have no idea how to use that tool.
Right.
You can hurt yourself. So with the program that I do, based on what she's saying, it's great because it aligns with what we do. So right now, if you join Fierce Single Moms, and if you're out there and you feel that kind of stress, you feel that kind of underappreciation, or your lack of self-worth and confidence to do what you've envisioned. When you have a vision that is hard for you to do, I do believe that is a God-given, that's a purposeful vision. Because when it's hard for you to do, you need faith to complete it. Right. But it's also your purpose. And I know there's so many single moms out there that are so talented and so fabulous and so fierce that we need you. We need you out there because people like her or in her field might need you in that. You might have something for someone that you had no idea could benefit the entire community that you live in, if not bigger. And then on top of that, the point of Fierce Single Moms and the Fierce Coaching course is to teach you not only to be resourceful for yourself, it's to gain your emotional and time and financial freedom to leave a legacy for your kids. We're discussing this and we're talking about adults, but one thing that shocked me was you mentioned the age group of who you deal with, which was?
A lot of them are between 18 and 24 that I deal with. So mental health starts young. It doesn't have to be an old age. And even before I started in this particular department, I was working with the smaller kids, like 4 and 5. So mental health starts really as soon as you're able to comprehend what's going on around you. So from the ages of 4 and up, mental health is important.
See, that's deep. I like that. And especially like you said, like from the age that you're able to comprehend. And a lot of these kids, we don't give them credit, but they start at like 2. Kids watch.
They do.
And we know that they watch us, but we assume, oh, they're just going to act like us. But what do you think they're getting that from? It's not just your actions.
Right.
It's what's coming out of your mouth. It's the way you're thinking. And kids pay attention to what you're doing behind closed doors.
They do.
You know, it is very toxic to think that everything that happens in the house stays in the house. Don't do that. You know, like
It won't
it's
stay in
it doesn't
anyway.
exactly. It'll come out in some shape or form. You know, all darkness comes to light eventually.
Right.
So, but you know, God also says He will honor what you do in your private time. And the reason why that's different is because if you're in private and you know that you're doing this for personal development, and you know that you're doing this to survive, and you're building this up for your kids, then that's going to be honored. But you don't have to be alone. There are women like her. There are programs out there like her, you know, or grander even. However, we don't know how to be resourceful with that. And that's what I want to help you learn to do, especially as a single mom, you know, is to learn to be resourceful, to learn to gain your strength back and your personal development back and your self-care. So I even created a small, you know, 7-day step that I call the Fierce Cheat Sheet. And I'm giving it away for free right now. And it's if you join the Fierce Single Moms group on my Facebook page, it's a small questionnaire to be able to enter the room, and you will get it for free as long as you send me your email and your information. The group is really, I say that, and it's a supportive group, but we are a sisterhood there. And it's a private group, so you don't have to feel like all your business is out there. It's a sisterhood. And the reason why is, as a single mom, you know, you hear a lot of time it takes a village, and that is absolutely true.
Yeah.
It does take a village, but where's our village?
No.
You know, and but it takes us reaching out
Mm-hmm.
to do that, and that's scary
It is.
because asking someone into our world and to understand that is a very scary thing, because you don't know if it's going to harm you, if it's going to harm your kids. You know, those type of things are eerie. But that's also, again, it's just because you don't know what you don't know. So let me help you. Let me teach you and coach you on how to use those resources to be resourceful, but to build a legacy for your kids also. You deserve your prosperity right now. God didn't intend us for us to not live in paradise. So when I started realizing, you know, why am I homeless and sleeping in my car for almost 4 to 6 months with my child and my dog? That hurt. Why am I couch surfing between people, whether it was church or whoever, or friend, you know what I mean? Like that hurt. And it was a very, very hard time for me to be able to do that and deal with my child. And then on top of that, in my past, you know, I've dealt with different forms of abuse. I've dealt with, you know, a financial deficit that's not even funny. Like credit score was like 4 something, like, you know, like kind of deficit.
Yeah.
And at that time, when it was that low, I was 18. So I just got it, you know what I mean? So between the years of 18 to 20, because I didn't know, you know, I followed the suit and get this and get the credit card and pay the debt and pay off school. And so I did all those things, working 2 jobs and sometimes 3 on my own, almost my whole entire life. And that's why you met me, and the stress level was like, if she was being honest, it's probably a 12 out of 10. But like
it was, yeah, I was trying to be nice, really.
Oh, dang. It was. And you know, it was a hard time. It was a hard time. But one thing that I've learned through all of my pain and my hardships and my experiences, and I'm sure with the same with you, which is why you gain the understanding that self-care is so important and mental health is so important, especially dealing with younger children, and then your own personal, you know, is the fact that we need one another, but we need to know how to do it. And I would love to be able to help you learn how to do that, to be able to take what you don't know and learn it, and take what you do have, your skills and your talents, your gifts, because they're meant for you, and address that vision and start actually taking the steps. And then, as you said, small steps do matter. And what I say, which is, it's a different way of saying it, but the same thing, is I say the small steps conquer the mountain. And I do keep a vision board now, you know, like little things like that I never did before. I can help you learn to do that. We will create a journey journal during the Fierce Coaching course. You will use the Fierce cheat sheet, but like I said, that's available for free now. And it's basically 7 days of growth, understanding of how to get 7 days of goals done. And thank you. So the point of that is because growth mindset is actually more prominent than a goal mindset. And I know that sounds bizarre to some people, but I say that because all the tasks that you have on your plate with what you do, if you didn't grow like you, would you have been able to complete them?
No.
There
You
was a
have to
period, there was no
have
shirt.
growth. Yeah. If
Right.
not, if you don't grow, you'll stay in the same spot, and then it's
Mhm.
pretty much pointless. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So when it got to that point, like just to close out, and because I know we don't want to take up too much of your time, but this has been great. We can keep going. So to close out though, when you felt that it was time for your growth management, did you seek out help outside of anything else? Like
Um,
outside of your own choices?
Really, I just talked to God about it. At that time, I had friends, but they weren't true friends, so I
Mm.
don't talk to them any longer. But I just sought out God, and He was able to get me into the job I'm in now. So it all worked out. So,
Likewise,
mhm,
honestly. Like, and when you start making those changes, you'll start realizing the kind of flock you're with,
right,
and you will want to change,
quickly.
and the one thing that I do know is an eagle soars for a reason. An eagle soars at the highest altitude compared to any bird, and he does it alone. But what he does to get there is he goes through the storm.
Mm.
No other bird on the planet will go through a storm. They always fly under it or they stay out of it. The eagle will soar above it because it knows that that is where it's the least resistance, the most beautiful, and the best chance for him to reign. He's the king of the skies.
Mhm.
In equivalent, the lion is the king of the earth. And it's interesting because those are the only two animals that God equates himself to in the Bible. So that says something. That's power.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so see, you learn something new every day. So, I want to help us get that fierceness out, to get you to soar.
Mhm.
I felt that I deserve to soar despite all the things that I've done. I believe in grace and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean, like you said, you don't stay where you're at.
that's right.
So now that we have gotten where we are, we don't want you to stay where you're at. We want to help you. So please join Fierce Single Moms. You can join me on my Instagram page as well, which is at Fierce Dynamic Die. And I do have a YouTube channel, which is Fierce Dynamic with Fierce Single Moms. So I would love for you to subscribe and join me and follow. But on our Facebook page, I say our because she's like my sister, but on my Facebook page, it is Fierce Single Moms. And you can DM me today. And I'm saying that because you need to. You need to DM me today to be fierce, to get your discovery you call set up. And it'll take about 10 minutes, maybe 15 at most, depending on what we got to talk about, to make sure that we're a good fit, because it's not it for everyone. And I'm sorry to say that. I would love for it to be for every single mom I could possibly help. But let's be honest, you have to have those 4 C's of stress, psychology, commitment. And I'm going to walk you through those things. I'm going to help you through these things. During the 10-week Fierce Coaching course, if you apply to it and then this is working out for you, which I do believe it will, because I know what you're needing. I know the value of this is, you don't just get the Fierce cheat sheet, you get the Fierce manifesto. We go over the Fierce confession that you say to yourself, and it's built on the Fierce 5 pillars, which is the mental health, motive, management, money, and then movement.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a powerhouse, girl.
Yeah,
It's
that
intense.
sounds good.
Thank you. So definitely want you to do that. Follow me again, Dynamic Die here. Love you guys so very much. And thank you so very
Thanks
much
for
for
having
being
me.
here. Would you like any closing remark out to the cyber world people?
I just want to end with a quote. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives. So make sure that you live and enjoy your life.
Oh, dang. That was intense. That's what's up. And you know what? That just brings to mind my own verse that God keeps with me on my vision board, which I do spread out to you. It's just Romans 8:18. You heard that? Romans 8:18. I consider our past sufferings are not worth comparing to the glory that will be revealed in us.
Yeah, that's
so
great.
that is on my vision board. So just saying.
I always have Jeremiah 29:11 on mine, which is, for God knows the plans that He has for you, not to harm you but to prosper you and to give you hope in a future. Sorry, I messed it up. But
no, I like that. Okay.
But
and I know that one too. I love that. But like what she say, but to prosper you.
Right.
So let's move into our prosperity and our paradise, Fierce Mamas. Let's get it. Have a wonderful and happy Mother's Day weekend.